Today I want to just have a relaxed conversation about how I got my first job or what the situation was when I started initially trying to make a living online. So I was pretty desperate. I basically left a teaching job, which is a reliable job where you're getting, paid by the government. It's not going anywhere, it's a real secure job. And I did it because I like teaching. I like talking to people. That's one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, actually, was just because I love to talk and I love to explain things. So I was doing teaching and I was really enjoying it, but I wanted to travel around the world. And that's something that I was thinking, oh, maybe I could go to an international school. So a lot of people who are, say, a science teacher, you can apply to jobs remotely. They're not remote jobs, but you can move to like Laos or Cambodia or the Middle East or something like that. Usually the pay is better, and especially if you move somewhere that it's a cheaper country to live in, you're working in like an international school, so the salary that you get is fairly similar to what you would get in somewhere like the UK. So initially going into it, that was my idea. I was thinking, okay, well, I can kind of travel around and do a job that I enjoy doing. But for various other circumstances and other reasons, I had to, once I got my degree, my qualification for teaching, I had to leave the UK, and I applied for loads of jobs, and some of them seemed a bit kind of scam-like, and I wanted a bit more flexibility because I had some friends who are traveling around the world and they were living in Tenerife and Bali and these types of things, and I was like, you know what, I want to have something that allows me to travel around and live that way. So I started to think, oh, how can I start making a living for myself online? And the first thing I thought of was e-commerce store. And I'd say some of you are probably watching this thinking, yeah, e-commerce store is a classic. So I went down that rabbit hole of looking at stuff on YouTube of people talking about how to start your e-commerce store and starting with drop shipping. And then I went through the whole, oh yeah, drop shipping is a great idea too. Oh, drop shipping is stupid. And then I started to figure out a way, okay, how can I set this business up myself? I spent like 3 months working on a business idea. And the idea was to sell jigsaw puzzles. And I went down this whole route. It was actually a pretty good brand, I thought, but whatever, time was ticking, and I was living in Portugal at the time. And I was thinking, I need to start making a bit of money now to sustain myself. So while I'm trying to get this jigsaw puzzle e-commerce store drop shipping idea off the ground, I was doing online teaching, and that was English teaching online. And it was okay. I was working with a company called Camly. So it's anybody can sign up. And it's kind of, if you're Irish or English or you come from a country where English is your first language, it's kind of the go-to if you're a native English speaker, is to try and teach English online as a foreign language. And it's a good gig if you can get a lot of hours. You get like $10 an hour, more or less. But when I was doing it, I was getting, the way it works with that company is you do, let's say, you're available for training. So you're available for classes, but the learners might only want to do 15 minutes. So they say you get $10 an hour, but actually I found myself just waiting around. You're not getting paid at all. And then you're only getting paid for the time that they do. So I was getting like $4 an hour. It was awful, but in my head I was thinking, oh, at least I'm getting something. I'm not completely broke. I'm making enough to kind of get by, but it was a fun job. It's kind of enjoyable and it's nice to meet people, but I did not want to keep doing it. So I was thinking, okay, that's going to be fine. I'll do this for a while until I get this puzzle brand off the ground. So I was approaching, I think it was around September, and everybody in the e-commerce game is like talking about, oh, September is a good time to get started because I think it's approaching Christmas sales. It's a good time to launch a brand, build up your brand, and then you're ready for Christmas. So I was learning about ads and email marketing. And I set up my first ever website using Shopify. And I kind of thought, you know what, I've actually got some design skills here. Fancied myself. I made my own brand and everything. So I was happy with that. And then it was coming up, I think it was maybe November. I ordered samples of my product, and it was good, but it was turning out to be just too expensive to manufacture the way I wanted to do it. And so I was going to have to charge like €70 for a jigsaw puzzle. And I just, in hindsight, it's hilarious. But at the time, I'd convinced myself that no, there's enough value in this. There's enough value in this to be that price. But anyway, I was going to go with it. And then I got a call from the supplier saying that, oh, it's too close to Christmas. It was, I think, November. And they said, we're not going to take on your business until the new year. And I was thinking, well, I don't have time to wait. I was making no money at this point. I was traveling, so I was living in Portugal, and I moved to Brazil as well at the same time. I was just eating through my savings, and I needed to be sustainable. I stopped doing the English teaching, and I was just going full on this puzzle brand. And I continued with it for a while until I got that call, and it was like, you're going to have to wait until February. And I was thinking, okay, well, I've got like 4 months here, and I've got no income. And I was talking to my friend who was doing freelance web design, freelance programming, basically. And he said, just learn to code. Just try it. It's a reliable source of income. It's completely remote. The pay is good. And if it doesn't work out remote, you can still get a job in a company afterwards. And I thought, oh, how long is it going to take? I've never written anything in code before. But as I've kind of described a few times, I'm actually really into learning anything. And this whole puzzle business idea ignited this interest in learning things again. So I was learning product photography, product videography, video editing, email marketing, web design basics, branding, colors, loads of stuff, supply chain, loads of stuff. And I enjoyed the process of learning. So I thought, you know what, let me try this coding thing. And if I hate it, I'll stop. But if it's somewhat interesting, I'll keep going. I've got time to kill. And so I got into it, and I started with the Odin project, and I just felt this kind of sense of fulfillment along the way. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is good. You know, I'm learning things. I'm smart. I'm great. And then, as I talked about in other videos, you go through that where you think you're getting great, and then you get terrible again, and then the valley of despair. And I've been all over that. I'll link to some of those videos down below. But then I was kind of putting myself under pressure. I'm thinking, okay, I need to start making money ASAP. I need to start making money ASAP. So I had heard of Upwork. My friend who told me to start coding was big on Upwork. And so I set up an account, and I thought, okay, let me just apply to anything right now while I was learning, anything. And the first job I got was a trial for $5 to do video editing. There was a guy who created a course on Etsy sales, and he wanted somebody to do editing for his course using Canva. So I'd used Canva before, and I fancy myself as somebody who can learn things pretty quickly. I'd never done the video editing, but I was thinking, you know what, I learned a bit of this video editing stuff when I was doing the puzzle business. I thought, okay, let me try this. And I got my first gig, and I did it, and I think I made $10. It was a 2-hour project, and I was delighted. I enjoyed the process of doing it, and I was also just really relieved. It was like, oh, I'm making money online. I'm officially freelancing. And it was really exciting, but the reality of the situation was I was making no money. I was making very, very little, and it wasn't going to be enough to survive or live the way that I wanted to live. And this is kind of what I would suggest for anybody watching this video. It's that it's going to take some really bad jobs at the start. You're going to have to just do stuff to get the ball rolling. You know, I got a 5-star review. I think one of the other jobs I did was maybe social media content creation. I think it was just posts. And again, that was another 5-star review and it went okay. But I would urge you, like if you're somebody that's interested in freelancing, just take whatever you can get. If it's $1 an hour, the 5-star reviews are going to be stacking up. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing what I did, which was just random jobs. If you haven't learned to code or you're not on that path, then do random jobs and see what you like. But if you are with a view to maybe do freelance web design or programming or video editing or whatever it is, maybe just stick to that niche and figure out your portfolio and all that type of stuff and your profile. But I just took some really, really bad jobs. And then as I started to learn, I was thinking, okay, I need to take on some more relevant work, more web design or coding work. And I was applying a lot on LinkedIn and I was getting absolutely nowhere. I sent probably, I would say easily 1,000 job applications on LinkedIn, which is insane. And very few got back to me. And then I spoke with my friend Sean, who I did the first podcast with. And he said, just DM people directly on LinkedIn and you'll get a better result. So I ended up getting a few interviews out of that approach, and that's why I recommend that you try that. If you're looking for your first gig, I would be DMing people directly on LinkedIn and reaching out to them, because a lot of people are reciprocal. Like if you reach out to somebody who is a web designer for, a marketing company, or they work for a CRM or whatever, they work for a bigger company, a lot of people will really want to help you out. If you reach out and you say, hey, I really want to be in your position, that makes people feel good about where they are. And a lot of times they do want to help you. So I did that and I got way better results. So if you are looking for your first job, that's a really good approach. If you want to do the freelance route, again, just doing really cheap work at the start. I don't know if it's really supposed to be the best advice, but I did some jobs for friends on Upwork where I gave them money to hire me, and then they hired me and I got the 5-star review, and then I used that to build up my profile initially. It might seem a bit disingenuous, but you're not breaking any rules. The work is going through there. You lose a bit of money by going to Upwork, but it'll kind of fluff up your reviews and get you closer to a real job, which is kind of a funny one, but whatever. I definitely suggest, if you're really, really struggling for work, consider that option. As long as when you get an actual job, you're a genuine person and you try and help people and you try and do their work, I don't think it matters. You're not hurting anybody. And Upwork's getting money, so they shouldn't care. But yeah, I did that for a while, applying. And then eventually I got my break with a coding job. It was $20 an hour and it was full-time work, working with React. So I had to go through the whole Odin project up from HTML all the way to React. And I learned React and I got onto this project and it was great. It was really good. I ended up with some amazing guys who were helping me out a lot. My boss that I was working for, the client, was extremely understanding. He understood that I was a junior, but he also understood that I was working hard and I was doing my best. So it actually worked out really, really well. I worked on a very cool project for a long time and I was getting paid as a freelancer. It was unbelievable. It was I was thinking I achieved my goal. And by the way, yeah, so this all took place while I was waiting for the puzzle thing to work out. And it turned out that I made myself sustainable with the coding, and I thought, oh, this is actually a way higher percentage chance of success than the puzzle thing. So I just stuck with the coding. I left the puzzle thing. Yeah, maybe I'll do it in the future at a cheaper price down the line. It was actually a cool brand, but yeah, so I got the coding job, really, really enjoy it. Coding every day, getting into the swing of things, learning a lot all the time, constantly building things. And then that project eventually came to its conclusion, but I worked there for, I would say, 6 months. And now I have a 5-star review. And now I have money earned on Upwork. Now I have a reputation. So it's easier to then get your next job. So then my next job, I think I was getting maybe $40 per hour. And then I worked my way up. And then I've had jobs where I was getting $97 per hour since then. So you start off at the absolute bottom. But if you're good, if you are a very good communicator, if you are trustworthy and you're working hard, you can work up. And you have to negotiate these things. Nobody's going to give you a load of money for nothing. But what I found was having self-confidence and working on my skills and knowing my value and building it up. Eventually you'll hit a point where you're making and you're able to charge a lot more and you can enjoy yourself. And if the coding is something that you really like, then you stick with it. For me personally, the goal had always been to be remote and a freelancer. It wasn't necessarily to just do coding or to just do e-commerce or whatever. I was in this game to figure out a way to make money online that I enjoy. And what I found after doing some really big contracts with coding is that it is high stress. And also I found that I was kind of isolated a little bit on a computer, typing, sitting at a desk all day, which I actually don't mind, but I did find that some of my social skills were atrophying a little bit. And also I felt that my innate talents weren't necessarily in coding. And that's okay. Some people, their talent is coding and focusing on very specific tasks to completion in detail. I can do that work, and I've shown that I can do that work, but I felt that I'll never be the best programmer. I wasn't so enthusiastic about it that I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the best programmer ever. But what I do have an innate talent for is kind of soft skills and teaching, because that's my whole background. I did coaching, I did secondary school teaching, I did online teaching. And so I've kind of transitioned a little bit away from coding, and instead I do more web design with interacting with clients, and I sell websites directly. So that's one thing that I do. And then the other thing that I do is I do professional training, which is also remote, and it's more social and it's more down my route. So when it comes to starting over or finding different avenues, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you find something that you like, I think you can keep doing it, no problem at all. And if you don't like it, there's loads of other options. The reason I called this channel originally Danny Discovers is because it's me figuring out my own life, figuring out how am I going to make money online, how am I going to keep learning things, what new things am I going to learn. Coding was just the one that a lot of people were interested in, and how I started to code and how I got all the way through to be a freelancer. I'm still a freelancer, but I do less coding now. It's not to say that I won't do it again in the future. It's just I felt that my innate talent was not necessarily coaching or coding. It was more coaching. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started with my online earning journey. And I know a lot of people are in the same situation where you're trying to figure out, oh, how am I going to make a living online? A lot of people will turn to online trading, kind of stocks. People will try e-commerce. People will try content creation. And I suggest that you try all those things. I made a video on, I think, 6 ways to make money online in 2024. And I vouch for all those options. I mean, there's so many options. The key thing, and this is one thing that I learned doing the coding, was if you pick something, get all the way through until you're actually employable with it. So no matter what it is, if you want to learn email marketing, for example, see it through until you reach the freelancing thing, because it's going to give you this self-confidence that, yeah, I can learn difficult things. It's going to give you self-confidence that, yeah, I can run my own business. I can manage my own time. I can interact with clients directly. So you learn all these little skills that really help, even if that's not necessarily going to be the thing that you provide for the rest of your life. You know, you can change what you deliver. You can pivot if you see an opportunity, and you can change career at any point. It doesn't make any difference. Obviously, depending on your responsibilities, you can make those decisions yourself. But I encourage people to learn new skills, invest time and energy into yourself, learning things, and follow it through until the point where it does pay off. Until the point where, like, if I had started learning to code and then learned and then never made money with it and stopped, that's a bad, and now I've got nothing to show for it. Kind of like I did with the puzzle thing, you know, where I went all the way to kind of launch and then never launched it. The coding was something that I had to follow through on, and that's something that I've had to learn, was just follow through. So yeah, that's kind of the update. That's how I went from not making any money online and having a normal job all the way through to running a kind of web design agency and doing online training. So I've kind of hit my goal of being a freelancer. I'm going to move to Portugal in the next couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be different. It's going to be different weather, hopefully. And that's the nice thing about learning a remote skill, is that you can just kind of pick up and leave wherever you want, whenever you want. And I really encourage you to think about, how can I make this happen? And I think the biggest thing is just consistency, following through a skill the whole way. But also when you're starting out, you've got to be a little bit cheeky. You got to be a little bit, take some risks. And you also have to just accept the worst possible jobs, because you're never going to get paid less than you did on your first job. You're never. And if you're in that position where you're trying to get off the ground for the first time, I've been there, you know, I've been there. Anybody that is a freelancer or running a business has also been there. So just keep going, make sure that there is a payoff at the end, work your way through till you get the payoff, and you'll be all right. You'll figure it out. And eventually you'll unlock the lifestyle that you're trying to achieve. So yeah, that was it. I just wanted to share it. I had a lot of people asking, how do I get my first job? There's loads of different industries that you can do. There's loads of different ways you can go about it. And that is how I went about it. I don't know everything. I don't know everything about freelancing. All I know is that I got there. And if you want to be there too, you can take some of this advice and apply it. And if you think it's useless, then disregard it. Okay. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll catch you in the next one.